All right, well, this is the first plenary event of Docacon 2020, so welcome everybody if you weren't at the advanced training this morning. I'm Jonathan Pyle. I'm a lawyer with Philadelphia Legal Assistance and the developer of DocAssemble. I wanted to thank a bunch of people for their help putting this event together. Sam Harden down in Florida arranged for wonderful space for us in beautiful Tampa, but then COVID-19 happened and we weren't able to actually do it in person. But I guess as a result, we have like 190 people registered, whereas if we were doing it in person, it would have been much less. So thanks to Sam and to, especially to Quentin for putting together so much of the training for today and tomorrow, and Sam as well. Quentin and Sam are going to be doing the beginner training tomorrow, which I think is the definite main attraction of this whole event. And I also want to thank the sponsors who ended up not needing to actually give us any money. Catherine Bamford of BAM Legal over in the UK, she pledged, as well as Scott from Community Lawyer and Dorna from Documate. Big thanks. Although, you know, ended up being over Zoom, so we don't really need to buy lunches and breakfast. And thank you to everybody who gave me your dietary preferences even after I said it was a Zoom conference. It's really important info. Just a quick announcement, if you're planning on attending the trainings tomorrow, there's the beginner training at 9, and then there's a training on gathering lists of things in the afternoon. And you do not have a DocAssemble server of your own, let me know. You can reply to my email, and I will send you a link to register for a free developer account on training.docassemble.org, which is a DocAssemble server that is only going to be up for the duration of this conference. So the work that you do on that will be erased if you don't copy it out. The session today, right now, is a sort of a freewheeling Zoom session. I've got a couple of volunteers lined up to make announcements and to show some stuff off. But after we get through them, I will open it up to anybody who wants to share something. If you're new to this community, you should know it's a pretty friendly community. We're kind of just a bunch of random people on the internet. So no matter where you're from, we'd love to, and no matter what your level of experience, we'd love to see what you've created in it. And especially beginners can be inspiring to others. So first, I will turn it over to John Tredenik, who is the founder of the Merlin Legal Open Source Foundation. And I was very excited because this wasn't even around at the last Docacon. I actually gave a presentation in August where I said, we really need to have an open source foundation for legal. And then like a couple weeks later, I got this notification, one had been created. So I'll turn it over to John to introduce himself and talk about the Merlin Foundation.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, and thank you to everybody involved for letting us be a part of this exciting conference, and even linking to us and giving a shout out. We've done the same in your direction because what you're doing is very exciting. Briefly, my background was 20 years as a trial lawyer with a big national law firm, and in the 90s, I became convinced there had to be ways that this newfangled technology could help trial lawyers do a better job. I did the Winning with Computers books, bestsellers for the ABA in like 90 and 91, and then began building systems to connect the 10 offices of my law firm. It caught on and I spun it out, forming a company called Catalyst, which is one of the larger e-discovery companies worldwide. And we grew to about 180 people with 5 data centers in the US and Asia. And after 20 years, I sold that business to OpenText. Being too young to retire, I wasn't ready to stop. And so I began focusing on kind of my second passion, and one that we took advantage of at Catalyst, and that was open source software. And I began studying ways that I could maybe contribute back to the industry and the legal world and people that need access to justice through open source software. And it was as I was looking around on what we might build, that I realized that this was far bigger than just putting something out there, that it was impacting the legal profession and growing quickly, and yet there was no organization focused on it that I could see. And I thought the biggest thing we need, from my research, was a group that would promote open source, because frankly, and I bet you guys know better than uh, I want to say half the legal profession, but it's much higher than that. They're scared to death of something like open source. And yet you point out that the browser you're using is open source, that many, if not most of the tools have open source components, if not completely, etc., and that the internet runs on open source. They begin to understand that maybe there's something worth paying attention to. And I thought we needed not just an advocate, although I want to be that, but an organization where we could bring people together that are focused on open source activities, maybe, and that's my dream, a central hub where all the open source, legal open source technology can be seen and found and appreciated, and we can promote and help open source efforts. And so that's what led me to found the Merlin Legal Open Source Foundation. Merlin being the wizard, which I think software is the wizardry of the 21st century. It's the magic of the 21st century, and that's why I like Merlin. So there's no magic here. What we are looking to do is help with, promote, speak about, sponsor sometimes legal source efforts that are making a difference. And Jonathan's Docassemble is one of the great ones. We featured it several times, and we will keep on. We want to bring together people that believe in the open source movement and believe it can help with access to justice and making legal processes more efficient, and do as much as we can to help the cause, with the full realization that each of us is just a small piece in the cog, and yet it's amazing what people banding together can do. So we're looking for projects we can back, things we can do to help, things we can promote. Any of your efforts or candidates, just write me over at the foundation, or Michael Hastings, our associate director, and then to see what we can contribute. The one project we've got going that maybe you'll be interested in is a group that's building an open source processing platform. Now, processing is used in litigation. Maybe many of you are more on the business side, may not matter. But think about a world where people can access processing for PSTs, emails, doc files, etc., through an open source platform that may well be hosted by Merlin Foundation, because I believe more and more that people want to use the systems. They don't necessarily have the technical background to install, manage, and support the systems. So what if we can conceive of a world where we can host these, not for free necessarily, because Amazon charges, but at the least at prices that are just rock bottom and reflect the cost, or, crazy thought, we get organizations to donate so that we can provide much of this for free, with the donations covering those costs. So the dream is, the realization was that the open source movement has moved to legal. It's becoming increasingly important, and people like you know that. The hope was that by forming it's a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, by forming it, we might help contribute to bringing the diverse groups of people together under this banner, and then together getting the message out so that people realize that software is there. It's often better than its proprietary counterparts, and it can really help move the mission forward, which to me is both access to justice and efficiency in the delivery of legal services. So come join us, come participate. We're just getting our start, but it's fun. And I just couldn't face retiring. I want to continue to contribute. I can't write the code that Jonathan can write, but I sure as hell can talk about it and talk up a storm. So thank you all for your participation. And Brian Tang, who was going to join and may be on, is an example of a person that we're reaching across the globe. He's at Hong Kong Law School and is doing great things, not only with open source, but with Docassemble or derivatives of Docassemble. So it's exciting. I hope you enjoy the conference. Thanks for letting us be part of it.
Yeah, thank you. I really love the open source foundation idea, specifically one in the legal field. You know, I was a law firm associate for several years, and I found all sorts of applications for open source technologies, and yet it was an environment where there were these software vendors who would sometimes charge, you know, $1,000 a month for the privilege of using what was basically like a Perl script that produced a CSV file. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, we could be doing this stuff in-house and saving our clients so much money. But there is this sort of cultural barrier to open source, and I try to present about Docassemble to law firms, and it doesn't usually go over well because they like their service level agreements and their off-the-shelf software. But it is heartening to see that among the registrants for Docassemble or for Docacon this year, there are a number of people from big companies and big firms who are going to be attending the presentation or the training tomorrow for the beginner training. And Robert comments that he spent $250,000 a year for an expert system at one point at his firm. Anybody have any reactions before we move on to Jason?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I also, as for a location that we could collect all projects at, I'll message you personally, but there might be a way to do that more immediately, and kind of with a lower entry barrier for people making new projects that we could do through GitHub or GitLab or an existing platform. So we should talk about that if you're interested.
If that's to me, we are. And one of my hopes is to provide not only a central hub with even GitHub accounts, Google accounts, or any other tools to come together to support the efforts. I have contributed money in. I will happily take donations, but I'm not chasing that now. I'm just focusing on the mission. I'll fund it. So we want to be that central place, and we're happy to support these projects. Bring them in. If it's legal and open source, we will be behind you for everything we've got. You know, all good ideas start small. The foundation is still small, but we've got a lot of great people with us, including Jonathan Pyle on our advisory board. So come on, you won't be turned down.
Great. Anybody else? All right, I will turn it over to Jason Morris, who has a number of things to talk about. And you should be able to share your screen, I believe. Yeah. Or at least you can attempt it.
Let me attempt it and just make sure we've got the technology working here. Which thing would I be sharing? This one. Is that working for people?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, great. So I will stop sharing for just a minute here and turn it back on in a second. So I'm Jason. Hi, everybody. I have a bunch of different hats right now. I am still running my own law firm called Roundtable Law, which, by the way, Roundtable Law and Merlin Foundation, that works real good. I am also working with Quentin at Lemma Legal Consulting, where we do Docassemble work for people. And most recently, I've started a contract working for a new research institute that recently opened up at Singapore Management University called the Center for Computational Law. So I'm going to be demoing one thing that comes from my work at SMU Center for Computational Law, and then I'm going to be demoing another thing that I've just been working on as a personal project for the last little while. So let's start with the personal project. I just finished a master's degree in computational law, and the thing that I was studying was declarative logic programming, which is a very cool technique that's used for legal knowledge representation. So you take the rules and you turn them into code, and then the computer can use them in order to derive legal conclusions. But there's not a lot of friendly interfaces for it. It's not the kind of thing that it's very easy to use unless you are spending $250,000 a year. And then there are some options out there, but they're all proprietary, and forget proprietary. So I, a couple of years ago, started working on something called Blocks, which is basically just a visual front end to an open source programming language called Flora 2 or Ergo Lite, depending on when you're talking about. I think Ergo Lite is the new name for it. So I'll share the screen again here and show you. This is what Blocks looks like. And what you have here is the encoding of the rules for rock, paper, scissors. So you can see it starts out setting out an ontology. There's a game. The game has players. The player has a throw. Signs have other signs that they beat. Rock, paper, and scissors are signs, and then it says which ones beat the other ones. And then there's a rule that defines who wins. So the winner of a game is the person who threw a throw that beats the throw that the other person threw. And then there's down here a query. Is it true that game's winner is winner, which is effectively a search question. It's like, tell me about any games that you know about that have winners. So you can then save this to a file, and I built a module called docassemble-blocks that will allow you to use code that you wrote this way inside a Docassemble interview. So I'll flip over to my playground here and let you see what that looks like. And I'm working on, the reason I've built these interviews is I'm working on a paper for the MIT Computational Law report. And that should be coming out at some point in the next couple of months, hopefully. And it's going to include these demos. And if it's possible, we're actually going to have those demos embedded on the actual MIT website so that people can read the article and then actually play with the code and run the app. So this is what it looks like. You have to call in the module, and then you have a blocks object that you can use to create reasoners. The way you use that blocks object is you send it an ask request along with the name of the blocks file that you uploaded. It takes that blocks file, sends it over to the blocks.com server, gets an answer back, and then you can display the answer back, which you get as a JSON package. So what the interview actually looks like is first player's name, second player is Bob McKenzie, and then you throw in rock and paper beats rock, so it should say that Bob McKenzie wins. There's a long delay here because right now the actual reasoner is being held together with duct tape and elastic bands. So in order to make sure that it works properly, I have to make it run very slowly. So it usually takes between 15 and 30 seconds to get an answer back from the demo reasoner right now, but that's just a thing that I'll be able to fix later. So let's see if we get an answer. You told me Jason threw rock, Bob threw paper. I asked Blocks to tell me who won, and it said Bob McKenzie. So the Blocks reasoner is actually sending back the instance name of the object that is the right answer to the question, and then you can use that inside the Docassemble interview. So that's the thing that I've been working on, is trying to get Blocks as something you can use inside Docassemble. The SMU project is the institute is a joint venture between Singapore Management University and a company called Legalese. And Meng is one of the principals of Legalese and the principal investigator at the institute. And I think he's here, although it should be like 3:30 in the morning or something in Singapore, so I don't know if he's awake. But Meng is running the investigation, and what we're looking into is open source programming languages for legal knowledge representation. And there's 3 use cases that the project is aimed at. One is smart contracts, one is rules as code, and the third one is expert systems and document assembly. And of course, if we want to do legal expert systems and doc assembly in open source, right now you do it in Docassemble, because it's just the best option that's out there by far. So we're just starting up. We've only been running for a couple of weeks, and we're just kind of getting ourselves organized. But we're already sure that as we kind of build these reasoning languages and demonstrate certain features, we want to be able to build demos really quickly, and Docassemble is the perfect way to do that. So the first project that we're working on is something called DMN-MD, which stands for Decision Modeling Notation in Markdown. The idea being we would be able to use DMN, which is like a business process modeling standard, except write DMN decision tables in Markdown and have something that would turn that into some sort of executable code that you could use somewhere else. And what we'd like to do is to be able to take this DMN table that you've written and just have that automatically turn itself into a Docassemble interview. So it will ask you all of the questions that it needs to ask in order to calculate whatever it is that table is capable of calculating. And what we needed to be able to do that is something that acts kind of like generic object blocks, where you can have a question that will be asked for a generic type of object, except we needed it to work for generic data values. Not just objects, but attributes. So we built a small module, which is at Smucklaw on GitHub, called DA data type. And let me load up the demo and just show you what that looks like. So you can see the way that you use it is you import the module. There is a generic questions style YAML file that you import, and then it gives you a bunch of Docassemble object types that you can use to define just what would usually be variables, but now you're treating these objects as though they were variables. So we can very easily say this decision table collects an age, which we know is an integer, and we can automatically convert that into a Docassemble YAML file that says age DADT number. And you can see this file has nothing except those object declarations and a mandatory screen that shows the results. And if I save and run, crossing the fingers, so the first example here is a continue data type. So it's just going to give you the continue button. The next example is a text data type. And the question is being generated on the basis of the object name function. A number data type asks you what the value of something is. And you can see that it's got the number interface. If you give it a Boolean, it will turn that into a yes/no question and just state the name of the Boolean as a question. And it'll do email addresses, and it will do dates, times. Oh, I have to actually pick something. There we go. And date times, which covers all of the data types that are used in DMN decision tables. So this is not something that you're going to use for a client-facing finished product. But what this allows us to do is to go from any piece of software that knows what data types it's dealing with automatically to a bare bones Docassemble interview that will allow us to collect the inputs and test the outputs. So we can go from any reasoning software to a Docassemble interview that demonstrates that reasoning software in exactly the time it takes to run the translation once. So that's the current project, and we're hoping that we will have something that will let you use decision tables inside DocAssemble interviews relatively shortly.
Great, thank you. Let me.
It's cool, Jason.
All right, next up we have Joy Butler. So you can unmute yourself and share your screen, Joy.
Sure. Okay, let me bring up my screen. Okay.
Great, we can see it.
Okay, great. So let me just introduce myself. My name is Joy Butler. I'm an attorney in the Washington, D.C. area. My practice includes transactional work primarily, doing a lot of contracts in the digital technology and entertainment industries. It also includes contests and sweepstakes and permissions and copyright issues. So I am very interested in legal tech or just technology in and of itself. I'm not necessarily a techie person. I discovered DocAssemble about a year ago, so I have been steadily climbing the learning curve for DocAssemble. I have been lurking on the Slack channel, and this work in progress I'm going to share with you. This is a promotion planning tool. As I said, my practice involves contests and sweepstakes. So let me just start to run it. I'll just kind of walk you through it. Okay, so the promotion planning tool, it's basically designed to help someone who wants to offer a contest, a sweepstake, or another giveaway. Not everyone is aware, but those promotions, as we'll call collectively under an umbrella, they have a bunch of federal and state laws that you're theoretically supposed to comply with when you're running a promotion. So this tool asks you some questions about the promotion you're seeking to offer, and then it highlights a lot of the legal issues that are suggested by the responses you gave in the interview. So I will walk you through it. And I haven't yet had time to review all the good practice points we learned in the session this morning and incorporate them into this interview. Okay, so here we go. So this is just obviously the disclaimer. It's acknowledged. Go to continue. So it starts by asking questions about the company or individual that wants to offer the promotion. So what is the name? Just call it the ABC company. Ask for a business description. We'll say it's a for-profit company. Then it asks whether or not that sponsoring organization is involved in any of these industries, because these industries have additional compliance requirements that go with promotions. Let's just say they're in the dairy products industry. Ask whether the sponsor is going to be collaborating with the charity, or if the promotion is being done for the benefit of a charity, because that can also require some additional rules. I'll just say no. What is the name of the promotion? This next screen, obviously asking about the promotion. Let's just call it the 4th of July extravaganza. Then here, for the next question, it gives the user some options in terms of describing what type of a promotion it is. On the side, it explains some characteristics of each of those types of promotions. And there is some follow-up questions and some checks in case the user gets this response incorrect. so it does a double check on him. So let's just choose, scavenger hunt. It asks for how the person is going to enter the promotion, a number of options here. A couple of these options do have follow-up questions. For example, if the method of entry is going to be, let's see, refer a friend. There are lots of refer a friend promotions. It asks this follow-up question about that. I'm not going to choose that though. I'm going to go back and I'm going to choose the option of, let's see, like or follow sponsor. Continue. Then it asks how is the winner selected. So in this question, it will go back to the type of promotion they selected in that long list of types of promotions and ask if the winner selection method is by this characteristically normal type of winner selection method that goes with the scavenger hunt. If for some reason this doesn't match the normal characteristic, it'll give another list of options that are more generic in terms of how the winner will be selected. But I'm just going to go with the normal one. So here, ask for some eligibility requirements, whether or not participation in the promotion is restricted to a particular association or group membership. Let's say it's only current or past customers. Whether or not there's an age restriction. Let's say here, there is no age restriction, so this can just be switched. It asks what are the promotion prizes. You can choose as many as apply. So let's choose merchandise and let's choose publicity. Continue. Then whether or not there are any logistics for the promotion that might trigger other types of rules. So let's say that there will be email communications and there will be telemarketing. And crossing my fingers that this works. So here is so this is the report that it generates. So a summary report for the 4th of July extravaganza promotion, my disclaimer again, then it takes
Could you share your Word window? We can only see your web browser at the moment.
Let me see. How do I get back to that?
I think you have to stop sharing your screen and then share again and share a different window.
Okay.
But I would like to see this document.
You can actually do a new share with the drop down of when the bar is at the top.
Oh.
Pro tip.
Thank you.
Zoom lessons as well. This conference has everything.
That's right.
Okay, I think, no. This one, here we go. Oh, that's the template. Okay, let me see. Let me stop share. Share screen. Oh, here we go. Let's try this one. Okay, can you see that now?
Yeah. You can see it.
Okay, so this is the report it generates for the 4th of July extravaganza. My disclaimer again, some information about the sponsor and the promotion. Like here it's picking up that that's a highly regulated industry that may trigger additional rules. The type of promotion, okay, this block, that's just standard for all types of promotions. Here it's giving you characteristics about a scavenger hunt promotion, you know, per your interview responses, what that triggers about having only paying members, the method of promotion entry, what that may trigger, the method of winner selection, some issues related to that, some issues related to the prize gift awarded. You've got merchandise and publicity. Hopefully that came through. Yeah, merchandise as a prize. Publicity as a prize. Is the prize really a prize? Tax implications, that's standard for all. The additional promotional logistics, email and texting. So it talks a little bit about that. And the rest are standard things that would be in each one. So that's it.
Wonderful. That's
awesome.
a very nice looking document.
Yeah.
I love it when practicing lawyers are using this software. It always surprises me that practicing lawyers have the time to figure it out, but I'm glad it's providing some benefit.
It definitely is. So thank you, Jonathan, to you and to all of the DocAssemble community.
And hey, I think I have seen you on Slack once or twice, but no need to lurk. You can ask questions anytime. Share pictures of your cats or whatever you want to do. All right, great. Let's now go over to Robert. If you were at Docacon last year, you remember Robert Huddock from King and Spalding. So you can go ahead and share your screen.
Excellent. So I am going to probably just share my entire desktop, and I apologize for my screen resolution. Can you guys hear me okay?
I'm jealous of your monitor, whatever you got there. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So I actually, I wanted to sort of talk you through a little bit about my practice and, basically how we use expert systems. And this particular expert system that we developed here was to assist clients with HIPAA compliance and specifically doing a risk assessment in order to meet various legal regulatory requirements. This is a really complex tool, and unfortunately it actually takes quite some time to go through and populate all the data in order for it to work properly. But I wanted to just show you a couple of the things that we have. This is the template that we actually use. So we'll go through a session with our clients answering questions, and this generates a very extensive report talking about the security controls that the organization has in place, and and doing a gap assessment against various regulatory standards and similar. In addition to that, if you see over here, we actually have different modules that we incorporate in, and we are actually have some complex data structures here that we've put in place, and we've had to control the flow of the code as the thing got longer and longer. We had some challenges in making sure that you could actually get through the sessions in a reasonable amount of time and not have the system sort of get lost. And then we also have some custom Python code that we've written as well that helps to control our assessment. But I'm going to go back over to my session here so you guys can sort of just see, we go through identifying different threats, vulnerabilities, applications, and systems. And I'm just going to go real quick here just to try to get through this as quickly as possible so you can just sort of see, sort of how the logic works. And here, it follows a FAIRS type risk assessment approach, where we go through, we identify sort of likely threats and such. As we go through, you can see that we actually have new additions added to the menus so that we can actually go back and modify the answers that we have made. And again, I'm just trying to get through this as quickly as possible just to show you, some of the way that the logic works. High trust is one security standard out there. We have an ISO 27001 related assessment methodology as well. We also look at various regulatory standards, including HIPAA, and there's a educational privacy Act as well that we have included.
I like your embedded images that
Yeah,
make it nice to read.
Yeah. So here, we have different regulatory frameworks, and depending on which one we click, we get, ask questions about each of these. And so the way that we present this, we facilitate or do an interview with the client while on site, because the tool is so very complex, and the context to understand exactly what's going on is, takes a while to learn. We sometimes, when we bring on new people, we'll do training sessions on how to use the tool. But at the end of the day, we go through the assessment, we generate the risk assessment for the client, and we can theoretically do it very, very quickly. Frequently we'll actually sit on the risk assessment for a week or two before we send it along, just because we don't want to make it so entirely obvious how fast we can generate the thing. It's so we have found Docassemble to be very tolerant to and easy to use. You'll see here that we've, our high trust answers, we can go back and we can revisit, some of those selections we made and similar. So there's systems and applications that we'll go through. We'll inventory physical locations. We also have, various threats, and then we go through and analyze the significance of each of those threats relative to, application systems, people, and maybe regulatory effects. And that is it. So I am a partner with King & Spalding, and we make money using Docassemble to help generate risk assessment reports. And in fact, the use of Docassemble makes it possible for me to have the time in order to be able to continue to develop expert systems and things like that is a significant component of the practice. Clients are constantly pushing for, more services on less time. And so the more that we can automate our workflows, the easier it is for us. But anyway.
Wow, that is epic. That looks like a ton of work went into generating all that.
Well, I asked you so many questions. I probably went through 6 months.
No, you didn't. I don't remember that.
Like there's some of this iterative logic that was really hard to get to work right, and and that was key to making sure that this worked.
Yeah.
And I remember this. Let's see, I get down here to where it gets really complicated. So this iterative logic here, where we're iterating through applications and then threats. This was really, really complicated.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it works. It really works with very complex applications. Okay. We probably are asking, 1,000 questions, and some of the questions are based on, responses of previous questions. And in this, I have found easier to use than other expert systems. And so as long as you've got some familiarity with Python, you can then build out any additional materials that you need. But yeah, it's great. And I really appreciate all the time and effort you put into building this, Jonathan.
Oh, thanks.
So.
I have
Thanks
a
for
quick
presenting.
question. I have a
Go
quick
ahead.
question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So my team's looking into unit tests, and right now we've got some work on end-to-end testing. How do you handle testing? Are you able to do unit testing on, say, Python code or modules? How do you handle that? How do you handle that aspect of the project?
Yeah. So
Automated testing. Sorry, automated testing.
So we don't really do automated testing. We go through and test the sort of the borderline cases to see if the logic breaks. But building out unit tests for the Python code, really wasn't necessary, for my purposes. However, I did use pytest as a, built some test logic into that. But we really don't have the issue where we've got, let's say, 10 people going through the application simultaneously on the same server, and we're worried that we don't have enough resources. And so we're not doing load testing, partly because the way our deployment model doesn't depend on large numbers of people being able to use the application all at once. But I do think it's theoretically possible to do like reported sessions and have those go again. But I don't have a good answer for, let's say, how to build test cases into a Docassemble interview right away, or as you go through it.
Sure. We'll keep working on it. Thanks.
Cool. So thank you, Robert, again for coming to Docacon and speaking with us.
Yeah.
So I just realized that in my email I said that the session would end at 1:45, and so we're over time. However, hopefully some of you can stay if you're not doing anything. Hey, it's all on Zoom. So we have one more volunteer to present. So if you can stay, if you have to run off, feel free to do so. But I would like to hear what Toby, the winner of the advanced training first prize for the quickest answer this morning, has to say. So Toby, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm a legal aid hotline lawyer. I help eviction defendants that we don't have an attorney to go to court with. And so I've been working on a project to try to do that better and more quickly through our case management system. So that's why I'm really excited about Merlin Foundation. Because is my screen showing?
Yeah, we can see it.
We use Pica or OCM, which is the only open source case management system for legal aid that I'm aware of. And it's definitely an endangered species. And so that's why I wanted to do a project in Docassemble. I think Docassemble integrating it with Pica may be able to save Pica, or if it's not, then I can just take it somewhere else. So we run Docassemble in Pica through this screen, and what it does, it will go in and basically pull out all the data from from Pica, and it uses ones for true and zeros for false, and then intake specialist or me can check that, make sure it's all right, and then hit continue. And so what we want to do is be able to identify the client's legal issue, and give specific advice about that. So, and this is showing some old stuff. So, so what you're seeing is these are the types of legal issues in the NSMI version 2, and you can drill down through the issues. And this actually, if we look at the source, all this stuff is getting pulled in from the actual questions, not in here. All this information is getting pulled in from an Airtable, which has, let me see, best way to see this, which has the issues of the NSMI version 2, and then they have the subsets. So you're seeing this. So we'll go to renting or leasing a home. And let me pull that. It's pretty slow. And let's go to a problem with the past landlord. So, and this isn't all, and as far as I know, the NSMI version 2 only goes down like to 2 levels. And so this is all sort of,
It was further now. There's been an update.
oh, so I need to update this. And hopefully we can pull in the NSMI API so an intake specialist isn't actually going through the tree every time. They can put in plain, just a text and pick from there.
Yeah, David Colarusso has an API for legal issue spotting that uses machine learning and a nationally organized classification index called the NSMI v2.
So, okay. So, and one thing I wanted to show about this part's going to take a while. So it will go through the subsets, but sometimes legal information is different depending on different things. Like an eviction has one issue, but there's different stages of the eviction. Like when you get a notice to vacate, you need different advice than when you get an actual complaint filed against you. And there'll be different information for the type of housing. Like you need different advice if it's subsidized housing. So it looks for different subsets, but it also looks to see if there's different types of issues. I call them clones because they're basically the same thing. They're just some differences because the different stage or different type of housing. But what I picked didn't have that. And this is, so basically I have my issue, and that's security and damage deposits. Now what it's doing is it's going through the protocols. So these are based on, so these are our protocols and when we can take a case. Mine is in wood housing, and there's no issues for, it's a housing case and security damage deposits, but security and damage deposits isn't like an issue we take. So it only matches with housing and Wood County. So it's asking this Facebook, this is the Facebook Live. And I use the sort of same method that Everett Pompey was using with like the logic just in the Airtable. So that's why it asked this question. So we'll say they did attend the Facebook Live. And that's a mistake. I thought I updated before the. So I mean, this lets you like switch protocols on and off. Okay. So you can see it identifies that there was a protocol, the Facebook Live one, and it shows you why that's the case. And let's see if this works. Like I said, all right. And so this lets you make an info sheet, but what it does is each of these issues has. Let me change my view. Oops, I'll get out the protocols. Has information with it, like name, title, definition, explanation. And so when I'm writing letters, you might need to know the information for the parent object, because that might be sort of your intro. And then you might, well, all right. So basically what it's doing here is this is creating all sort of like the information you might want to use. And you can put in an explanation block. And I'm not sure this is going to work because this is, for whatever reason, old.
What time is it in Anchorage, Alaska?
In Anchorage, it's 9:58 a.m.
Okay. So
I think we can still hear you.
you can still, but you don't have my screen?
No, it's okay. We can hear you, Toby. Keep
Toby,
going.
we have to go to our next session in a minute. So.
All right. Well,
you could wrap up.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this project, one thing I want to mention about it is that we've got a budget for we call them small software solutions. And I think what's great about it was that you can do little parts and it integrates well with other parts. So I'm going to be hiring people to do small jobs, things like maybe a geo. I'd like to include a way to determine what type of housing it is from the address, or
Wow.
clean stuff up. And I think I'm going to be posting them in as many places as I can, but definitely I'll put them up on the Docasymble Slack channel too for these small jobs. I mean, the budget is really jobs for like $500 to $1,000.
Great.
So if you're interested, you keep your eyes out for that.
Well, thank you. And thanks to all the other presenters as well. It's been fun to hear from a variety of new people. So I've got to hop off and start the next session right now. But thank you all for coming, and I hope I'll see you tomorrow at the beginner training or one of the other trainings.
Bye.
All right. See ya.